Hello, once again we are back for our lesson, the Rattrap. As we all know that this lesson was written by Selma Lagerlof. And in this lesson we have seen in the last class that a peddler who took shelter in the house of a crofter accepted all his hospitalities by eating the food which was prepared by him. Then also we have seen that the owner of the house was an old man. He was leading a lonely life without wife or children. He was very happy and excited to have a visitor to share his loneliness. And also, we have seen that apart from giving dinner, he was generous enough to give a slice from his tobacco roll. Then he got out an old packet of cards and played with his guest until bedtime, isn't it? Then also we have known that the guest wanted to know all about him, and this old man trusted the stranger and he started telling about his good old days. He said that once he worked in Ramsjo's Iron Works, he was a land labor there, okay, and now he was old enough and he was unable to do the labor, so he depended his life upon the cow, and his cow supported him. He sold milk to the creamery, and also he says that the previous month he earned 30 kroner, isn't it? 30 kroner. And when the crofter looked that the guest was not ready to believe, he just got up, went to the window, took a pouch and showed him 3 10 kroner bills, that is currency notes. Then put it back to the pouch. And what happened the next morning? We see that as usual, our crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow, and the guest also thought that he also need to leave the place. But after some time, we see that the stranger came back to the house of this crofter, and he just went up to the window, broke a pane. He reached for the pouch, then took the 30 kroner, then he put back the leather pouch back to his place and he left. I think this is where we stopped in the last class. And now take your textbook. Let's continue the next paragraphs also. Okay. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. He realized, of course, that at first he dare not continue on the public highway, but must turn off the road into the woods. During the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. Later day, it became worse, for it was big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. He tried, to be sure, to walk in a definite direction, but the path twisted back and forth so strangely. He walked and walked without coming to an end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around in the same part of the forest. All at once he recalled his thoughts about the world and the rat trap. Now his own turn had come. He had let himself to be fooled by a bait and had been caught. The whole forest, with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs, closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. So what we see in this paragraph, in these lines, is that once this peddler, he found, when he took the money from the crofter, at first he felt that he was smart enough, because you know that maybe because of the innocence as well as the generosity as well as the belief that the crofter had in this guest, he might have thought of just showing the money. And we see that once he took the money, he left the place, putting back the pouch back to its place. At first he found himself so smart for having the money, isn't it? All apart from the money, he got dinner, porridge, then he played card with the crofter, isn't it? Then he had got a slice of tobacco roll, everything, isn't it? So such a happy time. Along with that, he, without much labor, he got 30 kroner also. So that's why he found himself so quite pleased with his smartness. But as he was just walking along the road, he felt in himself that it is not safe to walk on the public highway now. Okay? Because he has done some mistake. He had stolen the money from the crofter. So that guilty feeling started haunting him from the beginning as he started walking on the public highway. So his mind said, just take a turn off from the public road to the forest. Now he started protecting himself from being caught, isn't it? No one knows about it, isn't it? And he took the money, Now he himself feels like, what if others see me? So he started deviating his way from public highway to the roads into the forest. Okay, so he started moving that way, and the first hours, when he entered into the wood, the first hours he walked ahead without difficulty, and he feels like, I can reach somewhere, something like that. Okay, and what happened? But later in the day, he started getting confused because he doesn't know a definite path. Now he is just telling in its mind that no, I shouldn't get confused in the midst of this forest. He started thinking clearly, taking a correct decision as not to get confused in the way or not to lost his way. And this is not a familiar place for the peddler. And also, once again he started realizing that no, I should not take the wrong way. I should be very clear about my path. Okay, and but he doesn't know which direction to be taken. He continued walking hour after hour, time after time. But after a long time, he realized that he had been walking around in the same part of the forest. That he has not made any advancement in his path, or he has not taken a new way. He was just circling only in the same part of the forest. He was just walking around the same part of the forest. And now, as he was just walking around, he thought that yes, now the world appeared to be a big rat trap. And now, to him, what he said earlier while he was walking along, that he had a meditation, that the world is a rat trap. Now he himself started realizing that yes, I am trapped. I found myself trapped in the bait of what? In the bait of 30 kroner. When I took this 30 kroner, I just find myself guilty, and I find myself walk in the straight public highway. I started hiding myself by entering into the wood. Now, when he entered into the wood, he could not find a definite path to reach anywhere. He was just circling only in some part of the forest. So now he realized that yes, I have been caught, and I put myself in a trap by taking this 30 kroner. Okay, then once again he thought about the world being a rat trap, and this time he himself was trapped. And the bait was what? Bait was 30 kroner. And then we see that he felt like the forest as an impenetrable prison. What is that impenetrable means? Impenetrable means something that cannot be broken. It's unable for him. Okay? He was just circling around, and he was trying to hide himself from others. Because of all these reasons, he feels like, yes, I've been trapped. At first we see that he was just thinking about some people who have got into the trap, and he just laughed about thinking about the people who circling the bait and about to get into the trap. Then what about himself? And he thought that yes, the 30 kroner which was just hanging in the window pane of that crofter seems to be a bait for himself. Now he himself been trapped in this world, and he found himself been getting saved from this trap. He was just circling around in the same part of the forest, unable to come out from this place. He is being trapped. He was worried about being caught. He doesn't know what to do next. He feels like his life has come to an end, and there is no way out for him, isn't it? So anyhow, he felt like the forest an impenetrable prison, unable to break the situation to come out. Okay? So he thought that yes, this is going to be the end of my life. And also we see that it's getting darker and darker. The day is going to get end soon. He need to find a shelter to protect himself. Last night he got a very good protection shelter in the home of the crofter. But this day what he is going to do? Isn't it? He was trapped. Trapped where? In the forest, in the wild forest. When he deviated from the road to the wood, he was caught. He was trapped. Okay? Then coming to the next. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the forest. This increased the danger and increased his gloom and despair. Finally, he saw no way out and sank down on the ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. But just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill. He thought there must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up, staggered in the direction of the sound. Okay, so now as he was just trapped in the forest, he felt like he was about to die. He was so tired, he was hungry, and he was unable to move further. He just lied there. And now the season here, it's said here as December. Okay, and it was late in December, and it was getting darker. It started becoming darker soon. So you know that it is too cold also, isn't it? After spending the whole day in the forest, he thought that yes, this is going to be my end. With the month December, it was chilling cold. He lied up on the floor, or he lied on the ground, thinking that yes, this is the last minutes of my life. Okay? He lost all his hope. He went gloomy, and he started realizing the danger that is going to happen being in a forest, isn't it? So he was so sad about it. He sat down on the ground. He felt like everything is lost. He put his head on the ground. As he lied there, put his head on the ground, he heard a regular thumping sound. What is the thumping sound? Thumping sound means a sound with, what is that, heard within intervals. A regular thumping sound. The thumping or the beating sound with an hammer. And immediately he realized, yes, I remember Crofter just talking about one iron mill in which he worked as a day laborer, as a crofter on the lands of the iron mill. Soon he realized the words said by the crofter, that he worked in an iron mill. And now, after hearing the regular thumping sound of the hammer, he was pretty sure that the Ramsjow's iron mill was very closer, and there is some chance for him to get back into the life. So what happened? He started realizing, he started listening to the sound from where this hammer sound is being heard. Okay, gathering all his strength, he got up and moved unsteadily in the direction of the sound, with a great hope that yes, I can come back to life. First of all, he left himself befooled by a bait and been caught. As the darkness already started descending over the forest, when he saw no way out, he sank down on the ground. He was tired to death, but this time he heard the sound of a hammer stroke coming from an iron mill. So he gathered all his strength, dragged himself towards the sound. Okay, so there came a ray of hope in the life of this stranger, in the life of this peddler. The peddler find himself being trapped by the bait of 30 kroner. This is the man who just thought the world to be a rat trap, and now he is a victim in this rat trap. Okay. The Ramsjow's ironwork, which were now closed down, were not so long ago a large plant with smelter, rolling mill and forge. In the summertime, long lines of heavily loaded barges and scows slid down the canal, which led to a large inlet lake. And in the winter time, the rods near the mill were black from the coal dust which sifted down from the big charcoal grates. So here we see that a very detailed explanation about the Ramsjow's ironworks was said here. And here we see that this Ramsjow's ironworks was once a large plant and had shut down also, because maybe due to maintenance and all. And what we see here is this large plant where you can see a process like smelting, forging, rolling, everything was done here. You know what is smelting? Smelting is a form of extractive metallurgy to produce a metal from its core. Okay, that process was also there. Then forging. Forging is a shaping of metal using compressive forces. Okay, so that part was also functioning there. The process was also functioning there. Then rolling mill is also there. Okay, rolling mill means here we see that one or more pairs of rolls to reduce the thickness and to make the thickness uniform. Okay, it's a metal forming process in which a metal stock is passed through one or more pairs of rolls to reduce the thickness and to make the thickness uniform. Okay, so all these kinds of processing works were done in this Ramsjow's ironworks. That was why it was said to be a large plant. Okay, and also we see that here we see that long lines of loaded boats were also seen moving through the canal. And talking about barges and scows. Scows is a type of flat-bottomed barge, especially for transporting bulk material. Okay, so this plant was once a large and had shut down also. Then, as we told, it was a large plant with smelter, roller, and forge. Okay, these are some of the parts that dealing with the iron mill. And also during the summer time, we see that boats were seen in order to carry the good iron was shifted from this place to another place. So all these things were done in this iron mill. Okay, and during the winter time, the rods were seen black with coal dust. So anyhow, irrespective of the season, every now and then this iron mill was in full duty. Okay, with a lot of works. Such was the present situation of this iron mill. The next paragraph we see here, during one of the long dark evenings just before Christmas, the master blacksmith and his helper sat in the dark forge near the furnace, waiting for the pig iron which had put in the fire to be ready to put on anvil. Every now and then one of them got up to stir the glowing mass with a long iron bar, returning in a few moments, dripping with perspiration, though, as was the custom, he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So here we see that, as we have seen the condition or the situation of the big plant where every process was going on. Now coming towards the iron mill. Iron mill was such a large plant. Now coming to the iron mill, who else were there? In this dark evening on the particular day, here we see that it's already, we have seen that it's Christmas time, isn't it? Christmas time, only two people were here in this iron mill. Who were they? They were the master blacksmith as well as his helper. So only these two people were here, and what they were waiting for? They already put a pig iron to be ready. Okay, these people were waiting here. And pig iron means the ore, okay, and which had to be put into the fire to be ready to hammer it into shape. Now after taking this, the pig iron which was put in the fire, when it was ready, they will take it and they will hammer it into the shape. Or this process is done in the forge. Okay, shaping of a metal is done where? It's done in the forge. So they were very busy in the forge. So pig iron means a raw iron. Raw iron was put into the fire. Once it was ready, they will take it out and they will shape it in the way that they wanted. So that was the work that is going on in the forge. Now, who were there? Only the master blacksmith as well as his helper were there. And both of them were steering the glowing mass with a long iron bar. Okay? Because here we see that they were just, steering the glowing mass in order to make it sure that the heat, the temperature is constant enough to get the pig iron ready. Okay, using a hammer, they will shape the iron into the particular shape that they wanted. And also we see that the dress code of the people was also said here. They were wearing what? Long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes, because you know that it's always, they may be always sweating, isn't it? They were dripping with perspiration. Dripping means what? Always they can see beads of perspiration. Just goes on, sweating just moves from their body as they were constantly standing near the fireplace. Okay, so as usual in place, they wore nothing but only a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So this was the sight that you can see in the forge. Okay, forge is the place where raw iron is heated and it was taken using a hammer. They will make into a particular shape. Okay, and now at present in the iron mill, this master blacksmith as well as his helper was standing in the forge. Now all the time there were many sounds to be heard in the forge. The big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. The fireboy shoveled the charcoal into the maw of the furnace with a great deal of clatter. Outside roared the waterfall and a sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick-tiled roof. Now, in this paragraph, what we see here is the sound that you can hear in the forge. The sound made inside the forge and outside the forge is said here. Okay. So here it says that actually as this helper boy who is just putting this charcoal or just using a shovel. Shovel is a type of instrument that is used to carry heat charcoals and all, as well as it's used for carrying. It's used as a spade. Okay, just like a spade. Okay, it can be used for carrying hot materials as well as large things likewise. So this here, the picture is here. You can see this is shovel. So the helper boy is putting shoveling, the sound of the shoveling charcoal in the mow means inside, or the stomach or the mouth of the fireplace. Putting it inside the fireplace can be heard. That sound is there. Another sound is a sound of bellows. What is bellow? Bellow was used by blacksmith and smelters to increase the airflow going to the forge. This is the instrument. Okay, forge. Bellow. Using this, once it's like, what is it? In order to give air inside, in order to blow the fire, they use this bellows. So this sound of his bellow groaning in one side. Okay. Using manually, they used to pump air inside this fireplace by using what? Bellows. So that sound was there. And the other part, you can say that the boy was using what? The sound of shoveling charcoal into the hearth of the furnace. Okay, that sound was also here. And another sound that creates there in that forge is the sound of the waterfall and rain outside the mill. So anyhow, the roaring of the waterfall outside, the sound of the sharp wind whipping against the rain, against the brick tiled roof. So that sound was also that it may be raining there. Okay. And because of all these noises, here this blacksmith just missed something. So cracking of coal, clatter of shovel, then roaring of waterfall, then sound of sharp wind whipping against the brick tiled roof. All these sounds can be heard in the forge. So what happened here? It was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man had opened the gate and entered the forge until he stood close at the furnace. Surely it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds without any better shelter for the nights to be attracted to the forge by the glow of light which escaped through the sooty panes and came to warm themselves in front of the fire. The blacksmith glanced only casually and indifferently at the intruder. He looked the way people of this type usually did, with a long beard, dirty, ragged, and with a bunch of rat traps dangling on his chest. So already we have seen that because of all the noises that we said, what happened? This master blacksmith as well as his helper was inside the forge, and they couldn't even recognize the sound of someone opening the gate was not possible. Okay, they didn't heard because they were already disturbed by the sound of the cracking of coals, then roaring of waterfalls, then the boy pushing charcoal into the furnace. All this sound was already enough and more. Now how is it possible for this master blacksmith to hear someone opening the gate? It's not possible. So what happened? By the time we already seen that the peddler was in the forest and he was walking, just keeping his direction towards this hammer sound. Okay, somehow he came near. Listening to the sound of the hammer, he came near this iron mill. He opened the gate, but no one came to hear the sound of opening. He just entered inside the forge. Once he entered inside the forge, as he was standing near the furnace, then only the blacksmith came to know about the presence of this man. Okay, as it was very noisy inside and outside the forge, no one came to know about the coming up of this peddler. But once he came here, we see that this blacksmith glanced casually at this man and looked away because he was poor, shabby and homeless. That's one of the reasons. Okay. And here we see that this peddler or this vagabond is a person who doesn't have a place to live, or he moves from one place to another. Okay, just like the meaning of a peddler. Okay, homeless person. So for him, this forge is more than enough to spend his night safer. And also it was chilling cold in December. It was wet. Already we have seen that rain was there, waterfalls may be there, the sound of everything can be heard and all. So maybe he was probably wet enough. So this forge seems to be a place like heaven for whom? For this peddler, in order to warm himself. Anyhow, when he entered inside the forge, he was allowed by the blacksmith to spend the night in the forge, because this was his condition. Anyhow, he wanted to spend the night. Now, talking about this master blacksmith was not at all happy to see this man, because what was he? His appearance was something like he looked with a long beard, dirty. He was wearing rags, then with a bunch of rat traps just dangling. Dangling means hanging on his chest. Okay, and also it seems to be like this person is poor, shabby and homeless. And wanderers like this person, this peddler, this blacksmith has seen many people like this. So that may be one of the reasons why he purposely, after having a casual look, he ignored this person. He was not ready to have a talk with this person. He was not ready to inquire about who this peddler is or from where he is coming. Just looked in a, irritable manner, but he allowed this peddler to stay in that forge that night. Okay, when we see that the peddler, when asked for permission, the master blacksmith nodded his permission arrogantly without a word, because let him just spend the night here. Okay, and also we see that the blacksmith as well as the peddler, they did not say anything, because the peddler did not want to explain anything, because his only aim is to spend the night there safely. Okay, so that may be one of the reasons why he was also not irritated, even though the blacksmith showed some hatred in the coming up of this peddler. Okay, so what we have seen today is the atmosphere of the iron mill. This iron mill was a large plant with roller, smelter, forge and all. Okay, all process of work with related to iron, from ore iron, the raw iron, to exporting iron. Likewise, functioning of the mill was going on in a better way. And even though it's Christmas, but still then, maybe because of some emergency work, we can see two people there working in the forge. They have already put one pig iron or a raw iron in the furnace to get it more heated. Furnace is a place where fire with high temperature just goes on in order to make it good enough to get it into shape using a hammer. So by the time this peddler came inside, and he was permitted to stay inside the forge for the night. Okay, but the blacksmith was not ready to have a talk with this man, because he understood that he was shabby, homeless and maybe beggar too. And after all, he was having the cheaper rat traps just dangling on his chest. So that's all for today's class. Have a great day. God bless you.